was in law school, I was involved in a lot of different community activities. I was very lucky to have the opportunity to be an intern through the Illinois Governor's program called the Curry Internship. There was a role on his team called Special Assistant for Asian American Affairs. There was already an Asian American woman who was heading up state agency, Shanae Chun, and then a woman directly on the governor's staff, Christine Takata, who was Special Assistant for Asian American Affairs. That was the first time I really sensed that there could be an intersection or a role where it would take both of my interests in the community as well as with government and law and offer me a path forward. I've had such an incredible time working here with the state of Missouri and interacting with some amazing women leaders in my own agency as well as across the cabinet. And to celebrate Women's History Month during the month of March, I thought it was a great opportunity to really highlight all the different talents and dedicated public servants that we have throughout the state and make sure that we give an opportunity to those voices.
The person who had this job before me, Dr. Chris Nicastro, she was the first female Commissioner of Education. And I learned quite a bit from her and her mentorship. I served as her deputy for a period of time, but as I said, I've worked in the agency for a considerable amount of time, longer than that. But as with having Dr. Nicastro as the first female commissioner, and then I myself serving as her deputy, I learned quite a bit. And she and I were very different in many, many ways, and she encouraged me to be myself. But she did often point out that sometimes we have to work a little bit harder. To get that seat at the table, we still have to just work a little bit harder. And we do. And so we work a little bit harder, and we're sometimes a little bit task-oriented. But the one thing that she did teach me is that it is really incumbent upon us to find that next leader. To really, and I recall the day vividly, she probably does not even remember this, but I recall the day vividly when she was doing something and haphazardly said, "You could do this job someday." And it had never entered my mind that I could do that job someday. And I know that might sound funny to you, but it sometimes takes time, somebody to find you and say, "You could do this." And then I thought, I could do this? And it changed my way of thinking. And I think as leaders, it's our job to find people and say, "You could do this." And never promising them a job, never saying you will do this, never saying you have this. You could do this. You might have to work really hard to make that happen, but you have the capabilities. So taught me that. Another big lesson I think she taught me is that a lot of people did fight hard to get us at the table. So if you have yourself at the table, you might look around and say, "How did I get at this table?" But people fought hard for you to get to the table, so use that opportunity. Don't stay quiet. If you have something to share, for better or for worse, you're the one who's at the table, so share it and make sure that your voice is heard. And so just appreciate a number of lessons that I've learned over time from some great mentors.
Particularly when you are entering a new role or you are taking that next step in your career, it is always important to be knowledgeable and to stay current on your reading, stay current on your research. And we know that in education, there are definitely a lot of new topics, new ways of educating students with the pandemic. And so really ensuring that I'm not only basing my decisions off of information that I've learned from the past, but also how I am connecting and staying current with topics and best practices. And that is something that one of my mentors was very adamant about. She told me, "Tracy, in education, it will be extremely important that you stay abreast and knowledgeable of recent topics as well as items and experiences that have happened in the past. Know your value, know your worth, especially when you start to move up in your career. Unfortunately, sometimes you find yourself being the only female in that space. So knowing what you bring to the table has been some very profound advice that I have received from my mentor, and not being afraid to speak up if something doesn't sound right, even if it isn't akin to what others are articulating in the room. I have a a saying that I keep on my desk. And it states, we rise by lifting others. And that is something that I try to hold true to. I would not be in the situation, in the position that I am in now, if I didn't have the support, the mentorship, the sponsorship from others. And it is my responsibility to continue and replicate the same opportunities that were afforded to me. I think it is important to empower others. I think that is a firm role and a firm status of what leaders do. They lift others up, they empower others, and they help others see the strength that they have in themselves that they sometimes don't see. So being a leader, being in this role, I think it is important that I continue to guide others, empower others, uplift others, and be accessible. I think that is extremely important. I'm not that important to where I can't be available to others who may have questions or need my support.
I never intended to specifically get into state government, though I will say I was drawn to the public service aspect of it. I certainly knew of the Missouri Department of Conservation from the time I was a little girl, and I was very drawn to that mission and that purpose behind the agency. And so as I went through school and knew of my interests in the conservation area, took advantage of opportunities to establish relationships and make connections, and then doors opened after a period of time. What motivates me every day and makes me excited to come to work is, I think first I am drawn to the mission of the work we do at the Missouri Department of Conservation, always have been, both personally and professionally. I'm drawn to that mission. I think it's a critically important one. And then it is when I drive into the parking lot and I see my colleagues wherever I am in the state, I know that they are similarly drawn to that same mission. They're passionate about our mission. They're very incredibly competent people. And so when you're around like-minded people who want to excel, who want to be the best public servants they can be, there is just this energy or synergy that is created that is incredibly infectious and powerful. And then finally, I just believe there's an urgency to the work we do. Just look around with so many of the emerging issues around the globe. And so much of it is focused on, are we doing all we can to conserve our precious natural resources? So I just believe there's a particular urgency to the work. It's so critically important, and that's what motivates me every day. I have been blessed with women mentors throughout my career, and I am so very fortunate now as I look back on my career that I had great examples of women leaders who were very competent in their professional field. They were women of strong character and values. At the same time, they were caring and compassionate of others and great collaborators. They could bring folks together to problem solve.
Be okay with the fact of knowing that you are going to make some mistakes. You would not be human if you didn't make any mistakes, but being able to learn from your mistakes, growing from your mistakes, is extremely important, and being confident.
Remain true to yourself, know your North Star, make your decisions based upon that. We work hard every single day to serve people across the state of Missouri. It is an incredible honor and also an incredible responsibility.
I look back now and I know that they taught me that those attributes of leadership were so critically important, and that women leaders could really exemplify all of those things and still be strong at the same time. I certainly hope I've been able to exemplify that to others as I've matured through my career.
Strong women are helping make sure that Missouri is stronger.